Welcome to Refuel with Reverend Johnson and Reverend Rob. What's up? Hey, everybody. It's so good that you all are joining us on Friday at 7 p.m. Whoa!
We're back.
We're back. It's so good to be back with you all. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Hello. It's Friday. It's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too. Johnson?
What's up, Robinson? How are you?
Come on, get online and share this with people. We got an exciting evening ready for tonight.
Let's talk about that. Hello. How are you?
I'm so good.
It's Pastor on the screen.
Look.
I want the world to know, got to let it show.
Oh, he got some energy tonight, y'all. Look at this.
I'm only trying to get that together before you say you don't have no energy for tonight. I'm tired, Johnson.
Wait.
What's going on?
We don't want to hear you're tired. We're going to go through the next 2 weeks, not including this week, and we're not going to hear that Sean is tired.
Johnson, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I just told you. No, I'm okay. Listen.
There we go.
I had to run here.
Did you really run
up the steps?
Okay. Up the steps.
Oh, I mean, did we meet today or did we meet yesterday? I don't remember.
Because you and this, I got 10-15 minutes. I need you to figure out some other time. It was yesterday.
I got a new job, y'all, and this is my first week. Today is day 5. I survived. When I tell you, so let me talk a little quick about that. So I came from a team where I managed that was full of engineers, and engineers kind of already know what they need to do. They're already, they're already smart. They already have a process. They follow the process. My job is just to make sure that they stay within the boundaries, and make sure to advocate for them and get what they need, the tools, and to push back on stuff that encroaches on our job territory. So you know what I mean?
Are you under the Agile framework?
I am now. Wait a minute. So I'm so glad you brought that up because I did a sprint planning meeting today, right? So
okay.
So that's why I'm tired. So we're scoping out a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I'll give you that.
And so the team has no clue what that means. They had no idea. So I done moved from an engineer, and so we did the methodology of the normal PMP BOK. So then we shipped into this methodology of I was like, I'll do it. So I come in, bright idea, new fresh face, gonna manage and go, we're gonna sprint these activities. I want to run them in sprint cycles, right? So they go, well, what are you talking about? So you know what was funny? In the moment when I was sharing this with them on Tuesday in our meeting, I heard Jamie Washington in my head. They don't know. It's new technology. They don't know. So I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking this crew got, I'm new kid on the block, right? So I don't know what they know, right? And so I'm trying to do the listen, learn, and then put into action. All these little techniques and tools that people need to put in place. Listen, it is day 5. I've come home every day exhausted, and but progress, right? So that's the beauty of. So I
talked to you on Monday at about 10 o'clock your time, so I knew what mood you were in. Okay.
But you know what? It's great work. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I even got a truck. I have a car. A truck. It ain't mine, but it's mine. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So I it's just been really cool, and it's going to be a lot of work. But Chris just told me, he was like, "Yeah, you've been coming home really exhausted." I don't know what really to say. I'm like, "We been working out. Like it's going to be good." I'm going to play some tennis this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to get some of that out. But it's been good. I got a big, huge number to govern. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on with me. What's been going on with you?
So
you've been doing any sprint cycles or?
So my team. So while my org is agile, my team isn't, because we're primarily fulfillment, right? But I've been directly impacted by all the global shortages, right? So everything, like a lot of my hardware is end of life. And then, right. So now it's like global shortage, all the chip shortages, trying to get all the hardware we need. But we pushed through this week, and we met our numbers from we need to get stuff out of the door. I shout out to my team lead, like he's a rock star. And so
is that Kyle?
That is Mr. Kyle. And so
Kyle, shout out to you, bro.
Shout out to you. So my AC broke this week.
So it was I talked to you yesterday.
Yeah,
it was a meeting yesterday while I was in the office. So wait, when did I talk to you? Last night? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was yesterday. So it's fixed now. It was down for a couple of days, but it's good to have good contacts and resources, because I don't feel like I should own the full blame of this, Lanita. I feel like Joy and Sean have to take some responsibility. And so Joy blames me that we don't have the house warranty anymore. And Sean looked at me like I was crazy because I didn't have a warranty. But I don't quite remember saying, oh, we shouldn't do that anymore. But anyway, I got it worked out.
Hold on, Slim. I told you no matter what you pay, you better pay your home warranty contract. Did I not tell you that? So listen, for those that are on the call now or will watch this in the future, I don't care if you are working wherever, you must and should have a home warranty. It's only $500 or $400 a year.
So the reason we switched, and I think when we switched, we switched from what we originally had, right? And then I think there was a contractor that came here that didn't do a good job. And so I think I was pissed off at that contractor that I was like, I'm not going to deal with this company anymore. And then other stuff got on my radar that I let this one slip. But trust and believe, I was getting some quotes today, and we're gonna resolve that real quick.
Go. And this, I'm not trying to give Choice a plug, but go with Choice Warranty. I think it's like $35 a month, and they cover everything, including the air conditioning system.
Do they cover the ice maker?
Yeah, the refrigerator, absolutely.
Okay, so you say what?
I know, because I like
right. So those are little things like, so there's a cover the ice maker. All right. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I did, and then
how much did it cost you?
What is it called? Choice.
How much? Yes. How much did it cost you to get your air conditioner fixed?
Oh, it cost me $250.
That's almost half the year.
Listen, but I am grateful that the money was there, and I didn't have to call Sean to talk about which credit card number can I use.
Tell the people the truth. You already have one of my credit cards.
But what I said was which credit card number. I didn't say that I didn't have access to them. I actually said I was going to ask them for permission, right? So see, y'all, now that he got a man in his life, I can't just go and start using. I can't just go and start using stuff. I gotta be respectful and ask questions.
No, that is okay. What I'm gonna do is give the people false and that's not true. Johnson, that's your car. You can use it whenever you want to. Yeah. Go ahead. I can't.
Anyway.
So get a home warranty. Get a home warranty. I would encourage you to go with Choice. It's less expensive. Plus, they really do a good job. I actually like them. So I'm good to see you, Loretta. I missed you. When I come back, we're gonna spend some time together. Lanita, Starbucks, get out of here. Nobody got time to go see Starbucks. Yeah. So hey, John, what's up, bro? It's good to see you.
So the last thing, I went to the dentist and. Good. So I got the majority of everything is fine. But she was like, I have a broken tooth, right? And so if you know me, bones often break in my body. I have no clue over. So she was like, you should be in such severe pain. And I'm like, I don't feel any pain. And she was like, no, we need to get you in. We need to get this resolved. But, so it was just one of those things where it was just like, another thing that I got to do. But all my teeth
you didn't even know you broke your neck, so I'm not surprised.
I know that's right. That's the thing, right? So, me and broken bones.
What's going on in the news, Johnson?
Oh my gosh. So today in Maryland, we had a 2.6 meg earthquake, and the epicenter was near Woodlawn, Maryland. So everybody, like my Facebook feed for the folks that are local blew up. Did you feel it? Or did you feel it? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my house was shaking, blah, 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 blah. I didn't feel it. Joy said she didn't feel it. Ashton said he didn't feel it. But apparently it happened. I don't know. I haven't seen any updates if there was any damage, but it happened. That's what I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's something else. So also it's going on in the news that Indiana woman gets probation for the first Capitol riot sentences. So those people that were, encroaching and breaking in or what's the word we want to use? I can't remember the word that we were using, but at the time. But anyway, she was. Thank you so much. Anyway, so they're starting to prosecute the people that are going up. Yeah.
Insurrection. Thank you, Pastor.
There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Insurrection.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
That's why Ashton is here. Usually Ashton is on it. But my bad. Yes, Ashton, thank you very much. But anyway, yeah, so she gets probation. She was very humble. She talked about how, as she looked back on that, how she was upset. Her name is Ann Morgan Lloyd, pleaded guilty to a single charge of illegal demonstrating in the Capitol building and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. So, yeah. And so check out that if you want to, or if you are interested in knowing that the government is starting to prosecute the people for that specific day for doing and illegally demonstrating. Not only illegally demonstrating, but also I'm sure that some of the counts will be probably a little higher. So we look forward to seeing what that is and looks like.
Yes. So I want to wait for the Derek Chauvin until we bring our guests on, right? Because I think we'll get some good feedback there. So the America's first drag queen was a former slave and LGBT rights crusader, says a historian. So William Dorsey Swann was the queen, a secret of world of drag balls in Washington, D.C. in the 1880s. So
I need people to hear that. 1880, a black drag queen or a black slave who started up balls in the 80s. We always talk about this in the last couple of shows where we're going to have a ball segment where we talk about that. It's America's first drag queen, was a former slave and LGBT writer crusader. And again, this is from a historian that is writing a book. You can look at it on CBS or CBC and all other kind of news. You can actually look it up. It's probably going to become very big, and just want y'all to know that you heard it first here on Refuel.
Yes, that's right. So that's pretty dope. So I was trying to. So in what is it?
So what happened was that after they had decided that or wrote the Emancipation Proclamation that slaves was free and blacks were starting to get into government, this specific individual started having balls for some of the powerful blacks in Washington, D.C. And while they cannot find a picture, there is an artist did do a sketch, and based on the details that was found, has described what that would look like. And so what happened was he ended up getting raided by the police. And so it's a whole bunch of stuff. So which segues into, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I just wanted to know, how was that experience for you?
I hate you.
Okay, all right. Yes, we got to.
Listen, so that segues into, and the reason why we put this up is because recently in Washington, D.C., a drag queen by the name of Kabuka was at a show this past Saturday, and she really is passive. Thank you very much. She is very mean. And the performer brought up, white people and black people all come to these shows. Everybody want to come to a drag show, right? They always want to go. And so it's like going to a strip club. When you go to a strip club, you never know what the stripper's going to do. They may come up, rub this on you, rub that on you, rub that on you, whatever. And the drag queen brought the white woman on stage, and they did a little act or whatever. And apparently the drag queen did whatever gesture. And so the white woman, after the show, called the cops and arrested the drag queen, and the drag queen stayed in jail for 2 days before the white woman, who they call Karen,
okay.
and they dropped charges. And so that, we decided to just kind of highlight that in terms of some of the other struggles that are, what's going on with our performers in the DC area.
Yes. And so I'm completely changing subjects, completely going off the script. This just reminded me, we want to send our love and support to the South Florida community that had the building collapse, and they're still looking for people. And so we send love and great energy down to those people. If you have family or friends that are still unaccounted for, know that we're sending good love and energy. Looks like, I think there's still there was 136 units in that particular building that collapsed. So
we want to send some love and guidance.
Yeah. Okay, I can go back to script now. What's
you're so funny. So getting back to this kind of made me do some research or whatever. So we found that Shannon Joseph was a journalist student at Columbia University who stumbled upon an unusual Washington Post headline dated April 13th, 1988. Negro Divine raided. 13 black men dressed in women surprised at supper and arrested. And they were entertaining, having a ball during that day. So, this ball scene, our culture goes back all the way to 1800s. And so I think that was something that we should talk about. So we're going to reinvestigate that. We're going to have a show. We're going to invite some of the performers on, and we're going to have some conversations. So
absolutely. So we've kind of just started this segment. We haven't labeled it yet, but we're talking about the Olympics in sport, and we know the Olympics.
Right. I know, right?
Right. So it leads us into. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about the Olympics in Tokyo once it goes live in a couple of weeks. But talk to Sean. What is going on with how does she pronounce her name? Sha'Carri Richardson. Is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Okay.
So I did not actually see the finals. I did not see the track and field. But the sprinter, she's a sprinter, crosses the line in the second place in the women's 100 meter final during the Diamond League athletic meetings at Gateshead International Stadium in Gateshead, Northeast England. And apparently. She is going to be amazing, and so she's coming from Dallas, right? Going to the Olympics. Nice.
And so also Allison Felix dropped from Nike when she was pregnant, but then makes the Olympic team 10 months after giving birth. And so I saw this highlight this morning, and I'm not quite sure. I hadn't fully untook all my coffee. So did she come back, and then did she beat Usain Bolt's score or his yes. Okay. So she did. So she came back, she got dropped from Nike, had a baby, 10 months later came back and then broke his record. So a lot. So the sum of this, what Ashton wanted us to convey today was the general theme is trying to put women in a box, saying they can't do something because of their appearance or because of pregnancy, right? And so with Sha'Carri, she has this wild hair, she has these long nails. I mean, she refuses to change any of that, and then she still is amazing. And with Allison, right, having a baby and then coming back and then just crushing it. I think your girl, what's the tennis player? Williams had a baby.
Time out. Stop. What you're not going to do is say, what's her name?
Is her name Williams?
Serena Williams. She is the greatest of all time. She is the only Black woman to be up in the top 3 of those that you're going to know her name the day before you leave out of here. She is searching, and she is thriving and moving towards winning the most Grand Slams from a female in not only the current era but the old era. Don't get me started. Don't you do that? No, ma'am.
All right, Serena Williams. I got it. Okay, great. So there was a whole lot of stuff about her when she had her child and the competition that she faced and overcame. My point is, when they try to put us in a box and marginalize us as women, we still come back stronger, better, brighter, braver. Yes, no, Lanita, I am not getting him started. I should have known better. Serena.
I was going to correct her, Pastor, but I was going to let she get a period. Because I was going to try to interrupt her, but Serena, and you're right. There is a lot of talk about pregnant women coming back after they've had the child, and then still performing or being athletic in these competitions. It takes a great deal of athleticism. I think that I didn't pronounce that wrong. In order to accomplish some of these goals, and Serena is one that continues to strive, and these other two women are. Yeah. But I also wanted to name in the Olympics, the Serena and Coco Gauff will be representing the U.S. in the Olympics. So I'm excited about that. Two Black women on the tennis team, and they're from different generations. So Coco is 16 years old, Black, young. She's balling, and then we have Serena, who is kind of in that era of more experience, and I'm excited about it, all of it.
Nice. All right. What's next? Can we go
to what's the meme? I want to know what's the meme of the week. When you agree to go out and the time to go out is getting Okay, that was cute. What's next? I like it. Did y'all get it? All right, I panicked early because I thought I was also pregnant with Nick Cannon's baby, but it was only just a little gap.
Listen, Nick is trying to ensure that we have a population of a next generation.
Did Nick just have another kid?
I don't know if she's had the baby, but she's pregnant.
Is he still married to Mariah Carey?
He ain't been married to Mariah in some time. He has like 4 kids since the twins.
Wow. Okay, Nick.
Oh, he just had twins a month ago, and I think he's pregnant. Another girl's pregnant.
Wait, he had twins with another girl? Oh, come on now.
Yes. Right. So he's trying to start the new another.
Hello, Deacon White. It's good to see you. I see you, Wendy Mitchell. Hey, Annette.
What's next, Ashley?
Just shout outs to Reverend Pratt. When I'm on my third we all can probably tell what era or what time this was taken because of that shirt.
This was Sean.
Is that a bang? Does he have a bang?
He does. Listen, this is how Sean looked in his 3rd grade picture, y'all. Like he had he had the background and everything. Okay, what's next, Ashton? Okay.
When the pot comes out, know you're eating the exact same thing for 3. That is true. That is hilarious. That is true. Right, John? That last one that is. Okay,
so 30 seconds about this. So Ashton and I had this not long conversation, but we went a little back and forth. So with that meme, because he sent it to me this week. So Sean, how do you make your spaghetti?
I don't know. Is this a trick question?
It's not. So okay. Do you, using that pot, right? Because so he was like, I just did it. Do you put your spaghetti with the meat and the sauce and the noodles and combine it and mix it all together? And that's how you serve it? Or do you serve it separately? Come on, we got guests to get on.
Okay. So depending on
we need that.
Here's the thing. So I cook my noodles first. So I cook my noodles first, so they have to be separate. I cannot cook them with the sauce. However, once I have dinner that first night, I then do combine everything together.
No. I do not.
You overcook the noodles, Lucy.
No. So here's the thing. I cook the noodles, I make the sauce, and then they stay separate. So you put the noodles on the plate, you put the sauce on the plate, and then you consume them.
So here, so yes, I do that on the first night. Yes,
And
absolutely.
then you combine it? No.
I ain't got time to put in 2 pots, especially if I didn't eat all the noodles.
Okay, all right,
The reason why I do that is because if I didn't eat all the noodles, then I do put it in the sauce. But majority of the times, like I mean, there's only 2 of us, so I mean.
Yeah, no, you're not doing it.
You know what my problem is? You know what my problem is? I sometimes don't know how many noodles in the box. I just be dumping the whole box in. So I got a lot of noodles.
Oh yeah, no. We don't do that. Okay, what's good to watch?
No. So what was the problem? Do you not think that people should cook?
So Ashton's like, no. He said the way that I do it is weird because I'm gonna
need him to put them in the regular comments and not this comment here.
Right, because
nobody can see your comments, Pastor. Nobody but us.
Because I do not mix the noodles and the sauce at all. At all. He knows he's coming to us. Oh, okay, so what's good to watch?
It's clearly not spaghetti. I bet you actually put sugar in. You put sugar in your spaghetti?
No, I don't put sugar in my spaghetti.
Oh God, thank God. Okay, so what's good to watch? Here's your top 5, and Pastor, do you put sugar in your spaghetti? I bet you Ashton do.
He said he does.
He's short. See, that must be some new age cooking. Hey, Pastor Pendermine, do you cook? We're gonna ask her to come on. I want to know. She's Southern. No, she's from Boston, but she's kind of lived in the Southern side. So I don't know. They, city folk move down south. They just change.
What's good to watch?
Oh, okay, what's good to watch? So your top 5 today. I've been kind of busy, but I will name that. The first thing I would suggest and offer people to do is to watch The Ice Road. And Ice Road is about a team of miners trapped underground. A down on his luck ice road trucker joins a mission across the terrain to deliver the rescue equipment. And it's Liam Neeson, who is part of, what's that show that he plays in all the time? What is it?
Taken,
yeah. So he's always very serious and dope. I love him. So check that show out. The number 4 will be Blood Moon. I have not watched that yet, but that came by from our pastor who said that we should watch it. So check that out. Sugar cuts the acidity in the tomato. Miss Lloyd.
That's what it does, but it's still disgusting.
That's like no.
You know what? That's why. So I when people say that, I'm like, that's why I drink red wine with my spaghetti. That's how I cut my acidity. Okay, come on. We gotta bring our guests on. We're gonna go over tonight. I
don't have my glasses on. Just a little. Not a lot. You put sugar in your. See, that's what I'm talking about. City people moving down south and be doing south stuff. See, no, you don't. Anyway, number 3 would be Housewives of Beverly Hills. So we all know the Giardies are getting the divorce. I think this is the lawyer that did the Eric Bakovich big case back in the day. He done stole $8 million from people. So I think that's what it is. So check it out. It all unfolds on Bravo's Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's really dope. I'm in love with it. And then number 2 will be Love Victor. Because this is Pride Month, I kind of took the suggestion from my pastor. He suggested this last week. I was like, let me go check this out. And it is really warm and fresh and funny. And it addresses some concerns about coming out and the struggles. I remember trying to figure out if I wanted to date women or just women only. And then I want to date men. And then I want to swing back to women. And then I want to go back to men. And then I was like, it's really a good story. So it talks about a modern family, a young man who is in high school who is trying to figure out what's going on. He's dating a girl, but he's in love with a man, or he likes. It is really, really good. Again, it's not an ABC special, but it's kind of like Disney. Like, it's really cute. I really think so. If you don't have anything to do, check it out. It's on Hulu. And then the last one for all our Marvel fans out there, you got to check out Loki. You have to check out Loki. It's a great show. I love how Marvel and Disney has entwined that within all the segments. And everybody knows that everyone thinks that Loki is dead. This talks about why and how and what happens. It's really good. So check it out. So those are my top 5. Thank you. People who say
Wonderful, wonderful.
in their spaghetti are the main ones. No, not negative.
No.
Negative. Manita, when we come to Atlanta, that would be a big fat negative. You've been out.
If spaghetti is already mixed up, I'm gonna go around it on the table. I eat the side.
Well, not only that, but we can taste the sugar in it because we know what it tastes like without the sugar.
It's the same reason where I don't. Well, I'm not gonna go there. Okay,
you don't put sugar on grits.
What?
Do you put sugar on grits?
I do put sugar on grits.
Me too.
Yes. Okay. All right. So listen, folks, this is our pastor's anniversary weekend, Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington. And last week, I think it was last week, in the chat, he said he wanted to for us to have this show, bring him on and bring our guest speaker. She's going to be preaching for us on Sunday. So you don't 10:30 right here on whatever medium you're watching us on right now. We'll be back again Sunday morning celebrating our pastor. And so we are, I didn't forgot already what's the theme of the, I got it. All right. So Pastors in Affirming Spaces. And so everybody knows Unity Fellowship Moving is an affirming space founded by our Archbishop Carl Bean under the umbrella of God is love and love is for everyone. And so as we are celebrating Pride Month, it's the perfect opportunity to celebrate our pastor and to talk to two brilliant pastors who are toiling daily, hourly, navigating around this affirming space and unpacking and reframing and freeing people every day. So, Sean, if you don't have anything, we're going to bring on Pastor Washington and Pastor Pendermont.
Yay! Yay! Look at Pastor Washington. We are so grateful that you all got some time to come hang out with Refuel.
Yes. Go, my sister. Yes, I am so glad to be here.
Okay, so before we get started with any of the pastoral stuff and all the questions that Johnson and I have, and people out there that are online currently, if you have any questions, go ahead and start putting them in the chat right now so we can track those. So just go ahead and just put them in. I got a couple questions before we get started, though. I want to know who puts sugar in the spaghetti. Talk about that. And do you separate your spaghetti noodles from your sauce? So who wants to go first?
Go, Pastor.
So I do separate my spaghetti noodles from my sauce.
Yes.
And they stay separate. I put them in separate containers when I put them up.
Yes.
And I do put a little sugar in my sauce.
I'm dying.
This is my sister.
Just to cut the acidity of because I use a very rich tomato sauce and I use tomato paste, and sometimes it's a little bitter. So just a sprinkle, you won't know it.
Thank you. See, this is what I'm talking about. You're not old enough to know why you need that acid cut yet, but in a little bit, you'll need a little bit of that acid cut. Let me tell you. So when you wake up in the middle, when you eat that spaghetti at 9:00.
Yes, brother.
And at 1:00, you can't breathe.
No second helpings.
Exactly. You put a little sugar in it to cut it now. Yes, you will. That's what I learned. I did not always, Sean. I did not always put sugar in my sauce, but I learned to just put a touch in. To cut the acidity. And it actually has a nice flavor. You wouldn't know. You won't know. You done had some of mine at the church and you ate it all up. You ain't even know I had no sugar.
I apologize. Let me help you right here. I have never eaten spaghetti at the church.
I've seen you eat. I feel like I've seen you eat my spaghetti. I have a vision of it.
I love it. Okay. All right. So
okay.
cut a little acidity. All right. We see everybody. That's what I told them. Okay. All right. Listen, I may have to make a little meat sauce. I had a little bit of sugar.
So let me help y'all real quick with cutting the acidity.
He was researching.
Well, because I had to find the recipe that my mama gave me. So here's the thing. You can add a little baking soda to your spaghetti in order to help cut that. So you don't necessarily have to add sugar.
Well, why would you add baking soda? That's nasty.
The same reason why people baking soda can do a lot for you, baby. Don't use because I done brush my teeth with some baking soda. And if y'all don't know nothing about that, then y'all young.
I associate baking soda with castor oil, so I don't use it unless I have to.
It's medicinal.
Baking soda is good for baking goods. You know that helps with the baking too. Y'all don't see. They don't know. They don't know.
They don't know.
And keep the refrigerator fresh. That's what.
Right.
Listen, Lanita said baking soda triggers me. I don't even want to. You got to add more to the chat. Okay.
I'm just trying
to box in the freezer. That's all.
There are other ways to cut the acidity and tomato sauce. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. So, Pastors in Affirming Spaces. One, thank you for your work. Thank you for your yes. And so, Pastor Penderman, I'll start it off with you. When did you know, or how did you know that UFCM was right for you?
Ooh.
Oh, wow. So most people or many people have heard my story of I grew up Baptist as you did, Carla, and I had a lot of iterations of spirituality along the way. I had believed that God was directing me to preach as a teenager. And so I went to my pastor at the time to say that I believed that. And he literally laughed at me. And then when he saw that I was not laughing, he kind of regrouped and said, certainly God has his hands on you, and, perhaps you're being called to be the pastor's wife or to lead the missionaries, but you are not being called to preach. So I was disillusioned for a while, left the church, did a lot of things, poured my service work into community work, but I'm just a church girl in my pinky toe. So would show up in churches and try not to get involved, would end up involved, all of that. But by the time I landed at Unity Atlanta, I was done with church as an organized place. But I was invited there by someone who I had gone on a date with, and was so intrigued when I got there. So Elder Tony Jones will tell you that I kept coming, and that I called him into somewhere around 25 to 30 meetings, asking questions about what I believed at the time was a cult. And so I know we had no less than 30 meetings. And he was gracious, and he met with me every time. And anyway, I was on the fence, and I was thinking, this might be somewhere where my church girl can marry my community girl, and we can integrate into one person. And but I wasn't sure. And then at the time, Archbishop was making parish visits, and he drove to Atlanta, and he sat in our little sanctuary at the time, and he gave a talk about God being love and love being for everyone in the way that only Archbishop Carl Bean can do. And I drank the Kool-Aid that day. I was like, yes, this is it. This is a marriage made in heaven. And so I joined then, and I've been on the journey.
Beautiful, beautiful. Pastor Washington, same question. How did you know that UFCM was right for you?
Well, so I love hearing my sister's journey and story. So coming from similar background, I had, kind of had all the apostolic Pentecostal, Baptist kind of journey. And I got clear that at age 24, 23, 24, that I could no longer, I got clear that me and God was okay. I had gone through a whole ex-gay phase because me and God was good. And then I learned that God wasn't okay with me.
Right.
And I believed that. I believed the lie rather than the truth. Right. And so in believing the lie, I became ex-gay. Right. And so I wasn't going to no longer live that lifestyle, come out from amongst them and be separate. And so that's what I was trying to do all through my high school years. And it didn't work. Anyway, so I went through my whole phase of just trying to let this just be my sin, right? And we all have sin and come short of the glory of God, and this was just going to be my sin. But then by the time I got into graduate school, that didn't work either, right? And so I couldn't I wasn't actively comfortable with practicing sin. Right. So I felt like, well, I can't just live and do that. Right. So I had to do something with that. And so I began to do some work with that and got clear that me and God was I just had some messed up stuff. And so then I had to do something with the messed up stuff. Right. So all of the ways I understood the Bible and all that kind of stuff. I did that work and had committed to no longer being in a gay, hateful space. So I had made that commitment at age 24. Whatever, me and God is good. And so I'm looking for gay affirming space. I won't be in a gay hateful space. What was the truth in 1984 that all of those spaces were white. Now while Unity, on the East Coast, right? So Unity was getting started on the West Coast, but we didn't have gay affirming Black spaces or people of color spaces on the East Coast yet, right? We might have had people who knew and don't ask and don't tell, but we didn't have a Unity. There was no Unities in 1984. So definitely not one in Baltimore. So I was looking around. So the best I could find was a space that wasn't gay hateful, not gay affirming. So I looked for spaces that clearly did not preach hate. And so I lived in that space for literally 16 years, right? And was, everybody knew who was gay. Nobody said anything. Everybody loved everybody. So it wasn't no big deal. And then I got a new pastor who was hateful. And she disrupted. She actually was the impetus to me listening to what God had said to me, like Pastor Penderman said, at age 16. Mm-hmm. There's a call on your life to lead in this way. I couldn't hear that because I was in that space of God don't like me, right? So when people would say, you're anointed, there's a calling on your life, I said, y'all obviously don't know God. Because if you did, you'd know that I was gay, and God ain't calling gay people, given what you said. So that's where my energy was. So I wasn't listening to that call.
Yeah.
Right. I could be okay with God. Me and God was okay, but not that level. But after 16 years, and I had met Archbishop in 92. I was beginning to unpack some of this stuff, but still not called to ministry. Not called the pastor, right? And then 16 years later, when this new person came and was gay hateful, it was as if God was saying, I need you to remember when you were 16.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to address that. And so that took me to, the year was 2000. A lot happened in 2000.
Well, me too.
And Archbishop came to Baltimore in 2000. And I said to him at the reception after he was ordaining, consecrating Bishop Thomas, then Reverend Thomas is the pastor. I went down into the reception area and I told him, my pastor says that God ain't calling people to the ministry with this kind of mess in their life. Because I had done what Pastor Penderman did. I went to my pastor and told her that I believed there was a calling on my life and was going to move forward in the AME church. And I said to Archbishop, she said, God ain't calling people to the ministry with that kind of mess in their life. And Archbishop said, I'm so sick of you faggots. I said, why Archbishop got to call me a faggot? Why? What is that? He said, why is it that when God calls us to do something, we have to go to heterosexuals to get confirmation?
Wow.
He said, don't you have a relationship with God? And that was all it took to solidify the call and the clarity around I was to be called and to operate in ministry as an out gay man. Now, the clarity around unity came during mid-year when I got to Newark and we were in mid-year and we were stretched out in the floor. That's what I said.
I remember that mid-year well.
I said,
I remember that
okay.
mid-year
Yes.
well.
Got it. That's it. Okay, so I was clear there.
So you all, thank you for sharing your stories there and entering in the moment of how you got to where you are. And so as you are now newly, let's move on to pastoralship, right? Both of you are new and pastoral at different times. And so I hear you say I resolved or I worked through some stuff, but when you became a pastor, what came up? What were the challenges that you all faced, not only with what's in front of you, the members, but also what was inside? Because oftentimes we do the work, but then there's still some stuff that kind of like comes up every once in a while. Like, talk a little bit about those challenges.
I would say the internal challenges primarily came from that place where many of us have imposter syndrome, where we are doing great things and people are giving us platitudes, etc. We think that we're doing what God is calling for and all those things, but there is still a little voice that says, if only they knew who I really was. If only they knew what my growing edges are. If only they knew the places that I personally struggle, then I'm not so sure that they would be tapping me for this. And so there was that level of fear, I guess it is, that I was not everything other people thought I was. And so my work was to get clear that I was on assignment from God, and that no matter what the process had been within the church movement, that pastoring this church was an assignment from God. And so then the conversation went back to being between God and I around, why would you do this? I didn't ask for this. This was not a part of my journey that I was aware of. I feel a little blindsided by it, what's really going on. And so, over some time, I got really, really clear that God knows what God is doing, and that indeed I was being called just as I am, and the work was still before me. And so the cliche that we sometimes use is that, God calls imperfect people. And I say God calls people, and we are all works in progress. And so I just needed to be really, really clear that it didn't mean that my personal work stopped. And it also didn't mean that I was not worthy. So I had to reconcile those things. So that was one thing. I also was in the position of being moved into pastorship after having served the same church for 7 or 8 years as the assistant pastor. Um, and the beloved founding pastor of the church was exiting. And so I was in the shadow of a beloved leader, and wanted to be very careful to love on the people as they grieve the loss of their beloved founding pastor, and know exactly when to assert myself as my own leader.
That's good.
So I was doing that dance for a couple of years, and so those were some of the things that plagued me, other than all the other things that were external for folks, y'all know church folks. So all the
Absolutely.
church folk stuff was happening, but those were my internal struggles.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Pastor Washington?
Well, I really appreciate my sister. So this is why I wanted to be in it with her, because there was a lot of similarities around, So yes, and like, kind of like I know this, but and at some levels, like I'm okay with what God has called, but I don't really think y'all gonna be okay. If y'all really know, look, this really looks polished, right? This really looks holy. This really looks together. When y'all see me, my hair's always done, my robe is tight. You see that, but I'm like, I got stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I got stuff that I'm actually okay with, but people are often not okay with pastors having that stuff, right? So when I say stuff, I'm not even making it bad stuff or wrong stuff. It's just stuff that folks don't associate. Pastors have it. Pastors shouldn't like that. Pastors shouldn't do that. Pastors shouldn't be thinking that kind of stuff. Pastors shouldn't, right? And so my struggle was, I'm called to set the captives free, but I'm not sure they want to be that free yet.
That free.
Yeah. Okay.
So say more about what that statement means. Like,
so it's like we want to be free to hold our boo's hand, right? But we don't want that. But we ain't trying to have you tell us creation is a story.
Ooh.
Right? And that the Bible is a resource. Right? And so
somebody want to fight you for that right there.
Hey, and that there are stories and allegories and all of those kinds of things. And no, it's not literal, right? And so are they ready to be that free? And so that was some of my internal struggle around, because I actually had 16 years of doing that work. Even before I got to Unity, I had done that work. And that's why Unity was in alignment for me.
Yeah.
Because it was like, Archbishop, the What We Believe statement spoke to me.
Yeah.
Right. And I hadn't been in a religious or spiritual space where it was like, oh, yeah, that's it right there. And so it wasn't a heavy lift for me theologically to move to Unity at all. I got to do much more work and go deeper and get more revelations and so on and so forth, because the place supported that level of work. But so it wasn't a heavy lift for me to kind of shift into, because I had believed God neither male or female, that we believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ, but not as the only. I already had that before I came to Unity. It was just written as the What We Believe statement when I got there. And so I felt really in alignment with that, and it just went deeper. And so the struggle for me was, am I going to be too much for these people? Because they still need Jesus to rise on the third day. And I remember the first sermon when I preached what happened between Hosanna and crucify him. And I said, he came out. That's what happened.
Okay. I remember that.
I remember that.
He came out. So that was some of the stuff for me. Are they going to be really ready for? Is it just going to be too much? And so what connected to that is what Pastor Pinnerman said was, is this real? Is this really real? Right? Because the old stuff in me, the old Black gay Christian in me would have me bargain with God. And the bargain was, I'll live righteous if you accept this piece of me. So okay. I will be, I will be holiness or hell as long as this same gender loving piece of me is okay. So I wouldn't challenge all of that unhealthy stuff that was in the scriptures. It wasn't liberating. That wasn't life-giving. That wasn't, I wouldn't challenge. I wouldn't engage that because I wanted to be holy. And that's what I experienced lots of same gender loving, affirming church people behaving as.
So are they ready to be free? Right. And it sounds like from both of your stories, you both did some work of your own and unpacked a lot of stuff of your own. And while you didn't say it, Pastor Washington, but Pastor Pinnerman talked about taking, being elevated to pastor in the shadow of, right? And then coming into a place that has been founded already, rooted, pastored. So both of you all share that similarity. So are they ready to be free? How do you all, in an open and affirming space, navigate or do you have to navigate the ebbs and flows of your membership, or are they, or are you finding that the people who are joining your churches are ready to be free?
That's really good. I'll enter first around that, if that's okay, Pastor.
Sure.
And I appreciate that question so much, Reverend Johnson.
And Reverend Rob will be back back here.
Yep, I'm sure. Yep. He's got a man in his life. But the the whole notion of ebb and flow, because one of the things that we have to navigate in this thing is people come, and if they get free, they don't need to be in the same way that we expected them.
Come on now.
So in the way that we learned in traditional church, that they need to be there and need to be under this preacher and hear the word and all that kind of stuff. They don't necessarily need it in the same way, right? So some folks will come and they'll get, and it's like, oh, okay, I can find God in other places, in other ways, and do my liberation and so on and so forth. And then other folks, like you said, church is our thing. Church is my liberation. Church is my community. They got it in their pinky toes, and they gonna be in church because that's their thing, and that's where their salvation and liberation and community is. And so the kind of the ebb and flow is, so who you got in the building, you got to pay attention to that all the time. And so there is a tension between, we try to move the people, right? And we've got folks who have been in it that are moved, but you look up and you got some new people.
Yeah.
Right. And they just trying to get to God.
Come on, Pastor.
They all that other stuff y'all saying, they ain't ready for that yet. And so, as Pastor named, had 20 meetings, right? And that's why at UFCB, I say, give us 90 days. You can't get this. You can't get this in a service. It's going to be too much for you if you've come particularly from a church background.
Yes.
Right. So you got, it takes some time. You can't do in an hour and a half and unpack all this stuff. You need some time.
Good. Pastor, do you want to?
That's sure. That's good, my brother. I love you. Yeah, so I would echo a lot of that, and would also say that it's not unique to the affirming space, to the affirming church space, that people don't want to be free.
Exactly.
That church
That's right.
primarily has not been about being freedom. And in fact, in the churches that many of us come from, the goal is to keep us in need of a perpetual state of redemption, that we are never redeemed. We are always in need of redemption.
Come on, preacher! Stop right there. Down.
Right.
Okay.
People got messed up right there, Pastor.
Right?
That right there is, I mean, that's a whole nother context, right?
It is.
Yeah. And so our people come, or my experience is that they come with all different levels. And I am one of those people who rejoice when I find those that are coming for freedom, or because they are free and they want to go deeper. But that is not the norm, because most of what we do in church is about our cultural connection to it, what it means, to how it connects us to family and community and ancestors, and we don't really engage the opportunity for transformation and for freedom. And so it is my practice to try to do a broad stroke, even though some would say it's still risque. On Sunday morning, I try to stay safe. I try to stay safe on Sunday morning, because so much is in the room, and so many various things are there. I'll test the water a little bit, but I try to use other opportunities like spiritual development, and one-on-ones and those kinds of things when we have Bible studies, or when we have other opportunities for teaching, for deep teaching. Then I'll do a deeper dive, because my experience is that most folk didn't come to get free.
Pastor Penamar, I'm gonna follow up with you. Do you find that is the case because you are in the South?
As in trying to stay safe.
Just trying to stay safe. And I think Maryland technically is the South, but in Pastor Washington, I will frame the same question to you. But being in Atlanta, Georgia, do you find with the people that are either clicking on your Zoom link or walking into your building when you're in one space, do you find that may be the reason? Or is that
no, I don't think it's geographical, really. I mean, at least that, first of all, many folk that are in Atlanta have come from somewhere else. So there are very few native Atlantans that I encounter in church. So that's one thing. But I also think that it is more a function of whether or not they have been steeped in some kind of religious tradition. So those that have been steeped in something prior to coming come with all of that, that has been heaped on them. And those that are coming from just, I'm intrigued about a church that says these things, but don't really have a church background. They're more of a blank canvas, if you will. They come, in my mind, a little freer than those that have been in church all their life.
Absolutely.
Because they're not dragging the baggage of this is what I ought to do, this is what I ought to feel with them. So
yeah, I just want to join Pastor Penderman in that too, right? So that's the dynamic we've got the churched who come, and we got folks like my husband who came to fix us, right? He came with Jesus, and he came to get us right. As he said on the first day that he was there. And so there are those who, they got the gay thing, but they come to get the gay people together. Right. So those folks are carrying more baggage than the folks who are not churched in the same way, or folks who actually, and then there's this middle space of folks who left the church because of the harm that had been done. Right. So, and it decided, I will do church organized religion no more. So we've got the unchurched altogether. It's like, oh, I didn't grow up in church, but I'm dating somebody who says we should go to church. And then the church thing comes in to play because we got children, and children should have a church experience. And so all of that, muddies the water, right? And then we're bringing children into the space, and there's this energy around. So who are our children going to be? How do we do youth and young adult ministries? Are we creating youth and young adult ministries that honor who they can be across the board, as well as supporting them to grow up in a space that affirms them if they are same gender loving or gender nonconforming or trans and so on and so forth? And are we preparing the young people who are heterosexual and cisgender to be able to live in a world where they can be allies and accomplices and supporters of, and not just, I'm here because my parents made me come.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a whole thing that is work that I don't feel like we've really fully gotten into yet.
Right?
Around that piece. Likewise with the children. And I'm talking about whether they're young children or grown children.
Grown children.
Right. Because like my own sisters love themselves some Jamie, and they'll fight you, but they don't know how to talk about. They don't know how to talk about God's clarity and God's love is for everyone, because they haven't necessarily been in space to work that within the heterosexual and cisgender community. Right. They just show up and feel loved in unity. Feel accepted and appreciated, and they love the space. But how do they go out of the space and talk about, this is where I went on Sunday? Right.
So that's a good segue into the question that I have also. And again, for those that are out there or that are online, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat so that we can ask our pastors that we have here to be able to give some responses. So we talked about church, we talked about, staying safe and everything. So we know that we aren't the only church, affirming church on the block anymore, right? And so what separates you or your church, your ministry, UFCM, from those other ministries? Pastor Benjamin, would you like to go first?
Wow. So,
Refuel's gonna give it. We're gonna come with the questions.
Why are we coming with the questions? And Atlanta happens to be one of those places where we have no shortage of affirming churches, and so I think I would say this. The first thing that separates us is the unapologetic place where unity believes that God loves us for real, as we are, not in spite of who we are.
That's good.
So that we believe that we were created just the way that we are. And for some of us, that means that we were created gay or lesbian or questioning or bisexual or whatever it is, and not that God loves us anyhow, even though we're those things.
That's it.
And so I'm really proud of that nuanced place among the affirming places, because I get to see myself really in the image of God, and not sort of taken in by God, even though something.
So can I park you right there?
Yes.
Say a little bit more about the image of God versus taken in by God.
So when I first started to interact with other affirming spaces, and I too had the Archbishop experience in 2000. And so I've been in Atlanta since 2000. And when I first began to interact with other affirming spaces, there was some reluctance to say that God created me gay or lesbian, or, that my journey is how God designed it to be. So the language was, even though I'm gay, God still loves me.
Come on now.
No. And it's sort of
Come
like,
on now.
I'm not a afterthought of God. I am in God's very image, that when God created me, God already knew about this journey.
I'm not an afterthought. Come on.
And I represent God just like I am.
Yeah.
And so do you, and so do you. And so the vastness of who God is, it gets hard to wrap our mind around if we think about all of us being in God's image. And so many affirming churches have made it to the place where they'll say, okay, come on in. It's like, it's like you taking in the neighbor's kids.
That's rich.
That is
but unity, or the unity that, the Kool-Aid I drank.
And the Kool-Aid we make. And the Kool-Aid we drink. And the Kool-Aid we make.
We continue to make.
That's right. That's right.
Says,
2 full cups of sugar.
Says, you ain't the neighbor's kids, you mine.
That's right.
And it's just as you are, not in spite of. And so that is the biggest difference, the thing that separates us in my mind, is that knowing that we know that we know.
Yes.
And then the second thing, I think, is the steeping in the love ethic, that that love, that God is love and love is for everyone, is not just sort of a motto or a slogan, but that it is if we have one, then I would call it our conversion experience. That we convert from whatever we were into people who make a decision to lead our life with love. And so that's what I would say. And I'll shut up and let my brother speak.
You just blessed me. Just keep talking.
Yeah, that was dope.
Talking, right? And because I join you so much in all of that, in the and both Reverend Rob and I were sharing our tattoos of Jeremiah 1:5, that we hold that God, before we were born, God knew. Like, we were no surprise. We were no surprise to God. And not only is it not in spite of, it is on purpose.
Yes.
That we have been purposed to be who we are, on purpose, with intention, for us to do what God has positioned us on the planet to do, right? If we weren't who we are, we couldn't do what God, the Creator, created us on purpose, right? In this way. My sister said to me the last week, she's like, I think I'm just glad my brother is gay. So she's like, so she just kind of got to this revelation that, I think I'm glad that he is, because I'm they, because of the virtual space, they get to be with us in service in a whole different way. And so they get access So it's more than just visiting and loving the people in the space. Now it's actually being in the space where we're doing this, and they're getting some of that Purplesaurus Rex Kool-Aid that we be kind of be dishing out on a regular, right? And so I join you in that there is a level of clarity. It was with Archbishop that I remember the first time I heard thanking God for being gay. Right. I was at a Black Lesbian and Gay Leadership Forum, and he was doing the service during that space. And I remember it as when I stood up and I said, "Thank God for my homosexuality." Right. And I remember saying that, and I remember something happening to me. It's like, "Ooh, what did you say?" Right. Not thank you, God, for loving me in spite of my. Right. Thank you, God, for creating me in this way because of what you have allowed me to see and opened me up to, and what you will purpose me to do in the world, because I would not be able to do it in this without that. So I think I agree completely with you around that clarity, around the clarity of love, but also around the clarity of challenging status quo. And that what I think unity does well is it's willing to push the envelope. And that it really is actively progressive beyond just sexual orientations and gender identities. Right. So we are inviting a reframe, a nuance, a seeing a God anew, not just in terms of accepting gayness, if you will. And so good. I think that's the distinction.
Well, thank you for naming those, as in what sets apart from some of the other affirming ministries. And so that leads me to my next question, as you are talking about challenging the status quo, as well as actively participating to be progressive, not just with sexual identity and orientation. My question would be, as pastors, with this way of thinking, or in this move and journey towards actively progressing, what does that look like as a pastor who is amongst other members or other pastors that may not be that way? How does that work for the two of you?
I just roll my eyes and look at Reverend Penderman. That's what I do. I text Reverend Penderman and say, "Do you believe this book?" That's what I do. That's what that means for me. I'll be asking her, "Where we at? Where we at?"
You wasn't even
expecting that answer. I was expecting that response. I guess he really kept that really real. I guess I was looking for, I don't know. I just didn't expect that. So he kept that real. I love that. So that's what's up. I get it. Pastor Benjamin, do you have
No, what I will say is that I'm reminded that I've positioned you here.
Yes.
For such a time as
that's good. See, that's the real.
I positioned you here.
That's good.
I positioned you here to hear that and be agitated by that.
I see.
And it is your responsibility to trouble the waters. That is your job.
I like that.
And so to lift as we climb, right? So so that all of us are on a journey, and even as we move into these pastorships, we're still growing, we're still developing, we're still unpacking stuff. And so I was just playing and being facetious. There is some eye rolling in the meetings that happen, but
that's good. That's good. So I'm sorry, Pastor Penderman, do you want to have a moment?
No, I think that's well said.
So we do have a question from one of our viewers. This is coming from Lynn Duhart, and the question is to both pastors: can you share how you keep your promise to yourself concerning self-care?
Come on, you just came off vacation. You better say something.
Well, I would just say that it is a promise that I have to make over and over again. and that one of the more recent ways that I am learning to keep that promise is that I am trying with everything I have to honor the word no. Um, and in church life, and particularly in unity, we celebrate people's yeses, and we do so much around thank you for the yes, and I do thank everyone for their yes, but in so doing, we have demonized the word no,
I like that.
and I don't, and I'm trying to reclaim it. Um, the scripture says that your answers ought to be yay and amen and all of those things, but it also but no is valid, and it's necessary, and sometimes when we find ourselves unable to say no, or let me just speak in the first person. When I find myself unable to say no, I recognize that it is my ego involved, and not my highest spiritual self. So I'm clinging to the places where, when someone asks me to do something, and my initial response is no, I'm sitting with that a little longer before I turn it automatically into a yes. So
And so
Powerful, both of you.
it's so good, so good, that self-care thing. And again, my beloved sister, again, another role model for me, that had me put a vacation on my calendar. I think part of as you talk about ego and so on and so forth, part of the role as you talk about ego is the I can handle it, right? And I need to take care of everybody else, right? And so I don't want to put my team on it. I expect them to take time, but there's somehow in a way that I don't end up feeling like I need to, kind of take it in myself. And, I've been here 18 years and I've never taken a vacation. I was away one Sunday when Sam and I celebrated our 10th anniversary, but I planned my vacations around being in service. And so if I'm not in service, I'm working. Right. So I've been taken away. And literally in these 18 years, this year will be the first time that I'm going to take time away from church. Right. And again, it's about.
I'm sorry. Say it again. I didn't hear.
So I tried to keep a straight face.
Well, y'all heard it on Refuel first. Our pastor's taking a vacation.
Y'all did. Y'all heard it on Refuel
I'm gonna fight both of y'all for trying.
for trying. Well, where was that?
Maybe it's gonna be in the meeting tomorrow.
A mess.
It was after this space with being with my sister over this last month when she just said, "Y'all got it." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that out."
That's right.
And see how it, and it is so important. So there is a tension, right? But to pay attention, I thank you for the notion of ego. But Mother Emily, again, you got to listen to your seniors and your mothers who teach you. She said there is love in the no.
Yeah.
There is love in the no.
Bless your heart, Mother.
And she just offered that, and I. So look, that's a cool. Sam Offer says it's recorded. I'm gonna take this out. But what I really appreciate that the narrative is the yes, that's what we honor. And somehow the no is wrong, and you shouldn't be saying no. And I had some no in me this week. I really did. But I really do think, because so it's a journey for me, Lynn. It really is, because it's not only about religion, it's not only about church, it's also about maleness. So as a man, I'm supposed to be able to handle and carry everything. And as a Black gay man who had what I talk about is the sissy experience, so I knew I was gay as a child. It's a different thing when you come to being gay as an adult. But when you are gay as a child, as a boy, and you are trying to prove that you are still a man, you get some male stuff in you like nobody's business. So I continue to unpack. I'm still a man. I'm still a man. I'm going to prove to you how much of a man I am.
Yeah.
And so that's still layers that I have to pay attention to. And some of it shows up in me not taking care of myself in the same ways.
It's cool. Thank you for sharing that. We do have another question from another viewer. This comes from T. Jackson. Is it hard to get members to understand that we are a social justice ministry and not just a church movement, pastors?
I would say yes. Again, I would break it down the same way as the question about, is it a Southern thing? It really is. It really depends on, where people come from in terms of what their notion of church is. And for many folks, the notion of church is Sunday. It is their ritual. It is what they're committed to. They want to show up on Sunday. They want it to be on fire. And they want to see you next Sunday. Yeah. And so this place where we do social justice, as part of how we live our faith, where we, do outreach and inreach and all the things that we do to make the world more just, is a new notion for some church folks. And it's a new notion that doing it would come as a part of, being a part of the church. So they might even be in organizations in community, or they might, individually do some things, but to connect that to their church membership and their church commitment, I think is a new thing for many people.
Yes.
And what I find is that people are, what's harder is to do the both and. So people either are all social justice or all church. And I find it harder to help people to marry them. They want to stay over here, rah, everything we do ought to be about social justice, or everything we do ought to be about church and worship. And I'm like, they are parallel in this universe. They are, we do them together. And so that's what's hard for me, to get people to embrace them both, to do the both and with them. Yeah.
I love that response. And I co-sign snaps to both and. And my experience is not only the both and, but is what is church and what is social justice.
Yeah.
Right. So I have this image of being social justice means we're doing this.
That's
and
right.
Being church means we're doing this. And so it's a narrative that's also blocking us. Yes. Right. So it's, if you're not doing this, you're not doing social justice. And if you're not doing this, you're not doing church. Right. When in fact, there's a wide range of all of those things.
All of those things.
Right. Yeah. So it's the both and marrying, and it's the breadth of all of those things that it means. And doing church for me might look very different than doing church for you. Yeah. And doing social justice for me might look different than doing social justice for me. And we need all of it.
Yeah.
We need all of it.
Yeah. So we definitely want to honor your time, right? And we know Refuel was supposed to end 29 minutes ago. But I'm enjoying this conversation. Johnson's enjoying this conversation. Our viewers are enjoying this conversation. So I just want to do a quick check-in that we can maybe hold the space for maybe 10 more minutes. Does that work for the two of you?
It's okay for me.
It's okay for me.
So we have a couple more questions, and this question goes back to pastoralship for the two of you, and I would like both of you to answer it. So, what does, as a pastor, talk a little bit about what happens when people are inquiring about your partners, and what is the take on sex, and should you be drinking and having multiple partners, and what you should do in terms of gambling and what that looks like, and lying and maybe not paying your taxes and things like that. So I'm talking about myself there. But I guess what I'm saying is, as a pastor, there's a specific way that people have this tunnel and narrow vision. What happens when you open that up and all this stuff flow out? That was a little loaded question there, so take your time.
Elder.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it, girlie. Listen, I want to say I love you so much. And absolutely. So Elder Bowen said, one of the things I learned from my beloved Elder Bowen right as we got started was, you're only as sick as your secrets.
Ooh. Ooh.
And so while I have private life, I don't have secrets. So if something comes out about me, like I said, Bill Clinton should have said, yes, I did have her do it. And I probably shouldn't have had her do it in the office there or whatever on her dress, but I did. Right. So, and so what the dynamic is, when you are preaching and teaching against stuff that you are doing, you are out of integrity.
Come on, preacher.
Come on, preacher.
Right. And so I don't live in that worry at all.
Yeah.
Right. There are what does sin mean for you? What does it look like? When are you in self-inflicted nonsense? When are you out of alignment with God's plan for you? Right. And I don't get to decide that. And so I'm in more inquiry space than telling space all the time. Right. So, because for some people, you don't need to, not only do you not need to be drinking, but you shouldn't have that piece of cake.
Right.
Because that for you is not serving your highest good, because you know you got diabetes. And the doctor told you can't have no cake. Right. So that's not serving your highest good. Right. And so maybe it don't have nothing to do with you drinking or smoking a joint or whatever. And when I speak in that space, I know that lots of folks struggle because, well, is it legal? Is it not legal? Well, it's legal over here, one legal over there. And it's just the whole thing. It's cultural, it's context, it's time, it's all of that stuff. So I find myself, and I do agree that it is a pastoral challenge to how you can show up when, and Bishop and I talked about this all the time. Bishop Thomas and I would talk about this all the time. We would have some fun hanging out, talking about stuff, but we couldn't do that with everybody because everybody wasn't ready. And it would, cause, struggle for the folks who are trying to find their way. So you have to be mindful as a pastor around who and what you can share with and so on. But what folks won't hear from me is condemnation around something, and I'm living it. You're not gonna get that double talk from me. And so I will be on with Pastor Victoria Bursant on Sunday night in this conversation around sexualities and going deeper into partners and pansexuality and non-monogamous relationships and that whole thing. And that's a whole thing for us in Affirming Spaces.
Yeah, I echo all of that, and would say that an early mistake, a early lesson for me was that place of conflating my pastorate with my personal life. That everyone you pastor can't also be your friend.
It's a good
And
lesson.
you can love them deeply.
That's right.
And
be friendly.
and you can be friendly, and you can be in some spaces
That's right.
with them that are not church, but you have to have a separate
That's right.
group of folk that you call friend,
That's right.
that can journey with you in every place that you go, and still honor the assignment that you have as pastor.
That's good.
And that is not everyone. And that's okay. And so I despise pedestals. I do my best to kick them from underneath me every time I find myself on one, because it's a long, hard fall when you fall off of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm transparent and I'm vulnerable. In fact, my congregation would probably say, I overshare from the pulpit because I err on the side of wanting you to understand me in my full humanness and in my full divinity. And so I'm working all the time to show up fully human and fully divine. And sometimes people are shocked. You don't want to play spades with me. People
You don't want to play cards with him either.
people be like, "That's Pastor Penderman." Oh my God!
I know, right?
So those kinds of things, people are shocked. I'm an Advent sports fan. People are shocked at the level of expertise that I have around sports. I'm not athletic, but I love sports, and so I get a little crazy when I'm watching, my teams or whatever.
Love it.
So those are the light things, but I also have some beliefs around polyamory and other things that
That's right.
that everybody are not ready. That everybody isn't ready for, and so nor should I share them with everyone.
That's right.
And so it's about discretion. It's about doing no harm. You got to know who you're in the presence of, and your job is not to harm them, spiritually or otherwise.
Right.
And so that's what I would say about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess the last thing I want to say, I appreciate that because the other thing is we have to also stretch the people. So there is a tension in, not oversharing or not too much about me, but inviting you into a conversation, a theological and a spiritual conversation around polyamory.
Yes.
Right. And letting you kind of be in that journey and in that process in a conversation around what it means to drink or to play, have a dream last night and play your number today. And, we went through all of this stuff, even as we tried, as we have our annual family trip to Atlantic City. It's like, how are y'all going to be a church going up to the casinos?
Yeah.
Right. And so, it's very real to invite, to stretch the people. But we know that trip brought people connected to the church that never would have come in the building.
Yes.
Right.
Same for us. Unity Atlanta used to have a booth at Pride when Pride was celebrated in June here. And we sold alcohol. It was our biggest fundraiser of the year. And we had an opportunity to have people come up and say, "Y'all a church? And y'all selling beverages?" And we got to say who we were and why we were and minister to people and in ways that those people weren't coming to church.
That's right.
So yeah.
That's good. I appreciate you sharing it. Both of you being so transparent. We're going to end with this final question. You all have been amazing in this interview here with Refuel. as pastors in Unity Fellowship Church movement, what would you share with a new or someone who is interested in becoming a pastor in Unity Fellowship Church movement?
Run!
Yes.
He's so wrong. He's wrong.
He is shocking me all day. I did not expect.
I don't know why you did. I don't know. I was about to say, Pastor Pinterman, why don't you answer the question first? I saw it in his eyes.
That's so funny.
And then if you could just give your closing remarks as a pastor, y'all are hilarious. Like if you could share that, like because there's a lot of people who are probably in that space of being at in a point of leadership who are thinking about being or taking that next step into no one up here.
I'm like, listen. So let's be clear. This is a general question for the general audience and thinking of this. You could answer from that lens, please.
Seriously, I would. I love your pastor.
He's a crazy kid. I love it.
So I would say, define pastor for yourself.
Yes.
Before you take it on, know for yourself what you mean by that. Because people will heap all kinds of things on you. Yes. My grandmother used to say, I don't care what people accuse you of, don't be guilty of it. So people will heap all things on you as pastor, which comes from their experience of a pastor. But you better know for yourself what pastoring means to you, and then create boundaries based on what it means to you. I would also say, don't ever mistake your assignment as spiritual leader, including pastor, as your personal spiritual work. So don't stop doing your personal spiritual work just because you ascend to a title, even one as lofty as pastor, because you'll get caught up. You know, I remember in the early days, I would do my sermon prep and all of my stuff around church. And I had developed a practice of personal devotion and journaling, things that would bring up what it was God was working with me around. And I just stopped doing that because I was like, surely, you know, after all the sermon prayer, you know, speak to me through that, God, because I ain't doing nothing else. And and I got caught up, you know, I got caught up in the sense that I began to feel spiritually dry as a bone, because that work was not necessarily my work, or it wasn't my only work. So those are the two things that I would caution those who are seeking to explore being a pastor.
Yeah. And so just because you're called to preach doesn't mean you're called to pastor.
Doesn't mean it.
And so, as Pastor Pinderman said beautifully, you need to check out what that means for yourself and get clear about what it means to serve as a pastor. I was with my father the other day in ministry, and he talked about him being with his wife for over 30 years, and he just lost her recently, and they would be in situations, and he would ask her to handle this, and she said, "No, I was not called to pastor. That's your calling." And there is a thing that, you know, as we frame a pastor's heart, that is a particular station and assignment And pastoring is not just about the building. It is not just about the church. So the calling is the pastor, and I serve as pastor beyond Unity Fellowship Church of Baltimore.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so being willing to be in that space. So you don't get to put down your pastor hat because you're not in church on Sunday. You called to pastor, and that you get to serve in that role in your church proper, but that calling is a particular assignment. It is the most honorable calling, and it is the most fulfilling piece of my life. And it is the thing that allows me to be in the world in all of the rest of the ways that I'm in the world, whether people are calling me pastor or not.
That's right.
Right. And so being clear that that's a call. And so I show up as pastor in the way I pastor everywhere. Right. So I don't have to be fake and phony and condemning and pious and all things in other spaces either. Right. And sometimes folks are shocked to have a pastor in the way that I show up in other spaces. So as my beloved sister is named, get clear. And because it's a real thing and it's a beautiful thing, but it ain't for the faint at heart. Don't get caught up in the robe and the title and the anniversary. Because
it is your anniversary, though. It is your anniversary.
It is, but it's not for the faint at heart.
I know that's right.
It is not for the faint at heart. We have been in conversation, in fellowship with two amazing pastors of Unity Fellowship Church Movement, Pastor Marissa Penderman of Unity Fellowship Greater Atlanta, Pastor Jamie Washington of Unity Fellowship Church Baltimore. Pastors, thank you so much for choosing Refuel to have this conversation with. We are so much better because of you. The time in which we've stayed, we've had more viewers join to get the information that you have to share. And so thank you so very, very, very much. Viewers, what you're seeing right now, if you come back on Sunday at 10:30 Eastern, you're going to see much of the same thing. These faces will be back in the place. Pastor Penderman will be our guest speaker, the speaker of the hour on Sunday, and we will be celebrating this amazing man of God and his call in this pastorship. So are there any final words before we're going to take you out, invite you to stay in the green room while we close out the show? Are there any final words, Pastor Penderman?
I love you, the collective you, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Washington.
Love you all so much. This is my beloved heart and sister, so I can't think of anyone I'd rather be spending this weekend with. And you two know that you are my absolute everything. Brother Ashton, thank you for keeping us on track and this wonderful experience tonight. To my beloved partner, Reverend Sam Alfer, I just want to honor him because he has walked this journey with me this entire time. And so I'm just grateful and looking forward to coffee with Pastor tomorrow morning, because we just gonna hang out and act a fool. So
all right, 10:30
on this Pride weekend. All right,
10:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you're watching us on many of these mediums, we'll have some postings up about coffee with Pastor. So thank you so much, pastors. We're gonna invite you to the green room. We just have to wrap up.
So listen, great show. They were amazing. I'm going to read him for filth because he first acknowledged that it was the husband, and then he came back to partner. So he need to get that pronoun or title or whatever he wants to call his hubby or whatever he want to identify him to be. He said husband. Did you catch that?
He said husband. And it was
I was going to say, where was the wedding and why wasn't I invited? How about that?
Listen, we love it. Reverend Offer, we love you. We thank you for how you support our pastor. Yes.
Yeah. Shout outs to Elder Russell Thornhill, who was on. Also, Elder Green, we saw you. Pastor Neville Powell, we saw you. Shout outs to you all out there. We love you. Johnson, we got to do this again. I love this.
Hold on. Yes. So before we go, so this is the last Friday in Pride Month, right? And so I don't know if you all have seen it, but we didn't get to it in the beginning of the show, but we're gonna show it as we're closing out. So before we're gonna give our greetings, we're gonna show the video, and then we're gonna close out. But it is an amazing. It's a short little clip, indeed. Posted it this week sometime, and it's called New Beginnings. And so just extremely powerful, and it shows the monumental work that organizations have done and are continuing to do in the recognition of seeing us as LGBTQIA+. So yes, we gotta do this. I'm not going there. We gotta do this again next week, Rob. I love you.
I love you too. Kiss the kids goodnight.
Will do. All right, let me make sure. I just screwed it up. My bad. All right.
I saw it. Okay, so I'll you have it.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Hi. Hi, I'm Taylor. Hi, I'm here for my interview.
I'm Dorian, and I use the pronouns he, him. Are you comfortable sharing how you would like to be addressed?
Thank you for asking. I use they, them pronouns.
Great. Well, I'd love to hear more about your skill set.
Sure. I went to school for advertising and
So, thank you all very much for joining us tonight.
Johnson, kiss the baby squad.
So yes, it's our show.
I love you too, and we're gonna get to do this again next week.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shout it up. Subscribe to our Facebook. Get on subscribe. Here it is.
Right there.
Go to UFC Baltimore.
Catch the fist.